One more thing which I just wanted to touch on with you both was you're both accountants by background and training. We've talked about, I guess, the different skill sets that can connect with analytics. Where do you see accountants providing the real value add in terms of analytical work? We've talked about commercial versus technical and all that sort of thing. Is there a unique sort of X factor that accountants with their concepts, with their training, with their background that they can bring to the table? You talked about the seat at the table before, in relation to this space in this area of work. Fahim, maybe you want to come to start with?
For me, in a lot of the type of work I do from an analytics perspective ends up becoming about revenue and cost drivers. So it's all about maximizing the surplus or minimizing the deficit or delivering products and services well. And all of that have either a revenue driver or a cost driver or an operational driver, right? So all analytics has done for us is, as Jason was saying, we've been analyzing, as accountants, we've been analyzing that since the dawn of time, probably, right? But what's happened now is we've got analytics tools that help us do that even in more depth and more detail, in more targeted way, in a more ranked way. So we can now not only say something like, let's say it's an organization where people come through the door to view the organization before they decide whether they're going to buy from it or let's use a childcare center, whether they're going to enroll their child into the childcare center. Now, in the past, you could do some analysis of, okay, if 100 people have gone through the center and we've converted 30 of them. What you can now do is you can work out that, hey, did you know that when those 100 people come in through the door, we tend to do really badly on Fridays for some reason. And then you can go down and investigate what's happening on Fridays. And you could pretty quickly narrow down what the cause is and make a quick change, and that could increase your 30% conversion to 40% conversion, which would be enormous amounts of dollars. Now, those are fundamental accounting principles. Those are just cost drivers and revenue drivers with an operational change. So I think accountants can bring so much to that conversation.
Yeah, I think accountants speak. Accounting is the language of business. We speak that language, and that's not going to change. It's always been that way. And so I think that no matter what tool is used or what data is brought to bear, it's still the language of business. And so I think having that knowledge, having that core understanding of that domain and how different accounts relate to each other, how that tells us the story of what's happened in the business. So we can use this alternative data. Maybe we look at satellite pictures of who's in the parking lot, and how the parking lot changes to determine that Friday is the day that we don't do as well, or we need to have more people staffed on this particular day. It's still the relationship of that information to what drives the business. It's still the relationship of that information, and then how to communicate that through the language of business to help others understand what's happening, or it's the ability, the knowledge we have of making sure that we provide assurance to those numbers and that we show that the numbers are what they should be and follow the appropriate rules that are generally accepted. I think we have that core knowledge, and no matter with any situation along these lines, we're going to be able to continue to add that value and use these tools to continue to do what we've done in the past.
Yeah, and I think we're at a stage where we still have domain expertise or capability expertise. So the technical data analytics people are still traditionally more IT focused and coding bent wise, whereas the accounting people are traditionally more commercial. And I think over the next decade or so, that'll become more blended and you'll get a more blended professional in this space. But while that's happening, I think there's an enormous role for accountants to influence each other and technical people to influence accountants and work together. So I think there's lots that we can bring to the table.
And that's our goal, is to educate that bridge, that person in the middle who has the core accounting knowledge, but then to add to that the ability to think through the analytics and to think through how the data speaks to the question they're trying to address.